Hey, thanks for joining today. If you'd like a copy of today's slides, use the QR code down in the corner or the description in the video. My name is Bryan Cassady. I'm here tonight to talk to you about how you turn any business book into an action plan with AI. But before we start, I have a confession to make. I love books. And actually today's talk is a difficult one because of how much I love books. For the last 20 years, I've read probably a book per week, every week. That means thousands of books, maybe 2,000, 3,000 books in total. I haven't done the math. I also have a lot of audiobooks, probably 600 to 700 on my phone. My confession is the following. As much as I like reading those books, I'd be hard-pressed to say how many I've actually put into application. If I'm like a typical user, I've probably used about 1% of them, which means I've used somewhere between 20 and 30 books in my real life. Now, I think for all that time, I could have used a lot more information and a lot more knowledge. And today we'll talk about how you can transform the way you and your companies turn books into action in the age of AI. As a starting point, there is a paradox. That is, we have more books than we ever had before. The number of books published per year is going up 20 to 30% per year, and nobody knows where the top is going to be because it becomes easier and easier to publish, and with AI, anybody can write a book. There's more courses and online learning platforms than ever before, and there's more content. There's podcasts, videos, articles. But the paradox is the following. As we get more and more, we tend to use less and less. Now, I'm a strong believer in books. I'm a believer in books because I believe books still matter. You can take a book and you turn a reader into a leader. That's why I write books. And I see an incredible value in what books provide. They provide a depth of analysis that you don't find in a video or a tutorial. There's context and nuance because, in fact, putting the words down on paper forces you to think harder. You can get years of somebody's work in a couple hours. And if you read with your brains on, it will challenge your thinking and give you new perspectives. But what's really happening with books? Now, I'd like to go back and tell you a story about the coffee I had with a colleague of mine. He was asking me what's going on with my books, and I said they're going pretty well. We made it to a few bestseller lists. We got some really good ratings. And he said, how many books do you think you'll sell? I said, maybe 15 to 20,000. That's interesting, Bryan. How many do you think are going to read it? Oh, I'd say 25%. He said, yeah, that's a bit optimistic because the average business book is read by about 10% of people. How many people are going to actually want to apply it? Maybe 20%. How many will actually apply it? It's going to be a lot smaller number. What I saw at that moment was going from an amazing excitement about writing a bestseller to seeing that in fact just about 1% of my books will actually get used. I think there can be a better and a different way. Now, it's not a motivation problem. People buy books to read them. The fact that they open their wallet, take out their credit card, means they want to go through it. The challenges that come up is books are hard to read. And also the format of reading a book is different than the way we work in our daily lives. You have chapter 1 through chapter 10. Sometimes you have books that can be read in modular formats. But the reality is our work life is fragmented. And it's not certain that the book we read last week is going to be the book we can use this week. By the time a reader wants to apply an idea, the book is closed, the context is shifted, and the friction is too high. Now, why does this matter to leaders? Because in fact, the model that we use to teach, the model we use to share information in books, courses, keynotes, have been designed to transmit knowledge. They're optimized for consumption, not for application. And application is what makes things different. Now you say, well, Bryan, your title of this talk had something about AI. I'm already using AI. And I'd say, well, Good for you. I think in a lot of cases, your use of AI actually might make things worse. The most common use of AI with books is a focus on summarization. The compression pulls out the nuance. It pulls out the context. It gives you a false sense of knowledge. But does it really lead to better decisions? I think a lot of times not. The challenge I see is to rethink the way books are done and think about them in a different context. We want to think about books as something we can query, as something that's an infrastructure we can build on. First and foremost, we have to move our focus from consumption, which is reading, to application. We have to think about the content and how we make it accessible. The content needs to be modular to match our work lives, and it needs to be made actionable. The role of the book, or the definition of book, goes from being something we sit and read to being a database designed for problem solving rather than just a story. Now, something you might not know is you can get a PDF on almost any major book. Some of the sites, like Anna's Archive, has 30 million books up online. It has in virtually every format you want. But there's a challenge, and that is the legality of this. Most of the time, getting a PDF of a book is not provided by the publisher, and what you need to do to get it is not obvious. So they're all available, but not legally, so they can be used in your company. We decided to do an experiment. We decided to offer free legal PDFs plus AI tools, which we'll talk to you about. And the goal here is to change the way the business books are being used so that ideas in the books can be turned into action. If you want, check out the press release. I think you'll find it interesting, but we'll tell you about it in the rest of the talk. Essentially, what we're looking at is a reframing of the business book. We go from something that people need to remember to something that's easy to retrieve. We use AI to actually help you access the book and get the information you need. Second, we restructure the way the content is put together. Instead of it being static, we make decision support systems. And the last change is probably the hardest for me, is a change in the way that we value success. Instead of the number of ideas shared, what we need to do is we need to look at the number of ideas executed. What I see is a different role for a book in the future. I see a book plus AI is giving us a thinking system. Some are going to say that AI killed the book. For me, I think actually it just gave books a new and a better job. To give you an idea how important books are, Anthropic just announced that they're buying up millions of books and scanning those books. It came up on the 27th in the Washington Post, and they talked about this horrible thing where an AI company is scanning and destroying books. It's horrible, it's unfair, it's dangerous. And there's a lot of comments like that. My point of view is slightly different. I don't think scanning books is the problem. I think letting ideas die unread and unused is. For me, I'd be happy if my book was part of those books being scanned, because it means there's a second life for my book. Now, what we've done is we put together a program that offers our books along with some different AI tools that allow you to use the books more effectively. The first tool is using books as a thinking partner. The purpose here is to reason and challenge, not just summarize the text. We use the books as a knowledge base, a definitive knowledge base, and AI becomes the access tool. The types of things that we can do are pretty simple. You might say, well, based on this book, how would the author decide between option A and B? We can say, based on this, how would we go about identifying typical project risks? How can we validate the strategic value of what we're doing? The outcome is the book becomes a coach, clarifying your thinking, helping you move forward step by step. Now, a good recent example is something that was put together by a guy named Ruben Domingue Ibar. He took Kristen Voss's book. Don't know if he has Kristen Voss's approval to do it, but he took the key frameworks, the key ideas that are there, and put that book available for people to ask questions. I think it's a great idea. I think the person that should be doing it is Chris, but who knows? Now, what you can do with this is quite amazing. You might say, based on this, you might say something like, I'm negotiating a raise. Can you have Chris Voss help me create an agenda? Ask me questions until you know enough to make detailed recommendations. This is like having Chris Voss as your personal coach for an hour or 2 hours. Knowing how much he charges for a speech, knowing how much he charges as a consultant, this is an important thing. And I think there's an incredible opportunity to do things effectively. So you can make something like this tool that was made for Chris Voss's book. You can do it with almost any book. You can do it as a custom GPT, a gem, you have Claude, something else. But basically what you're looking at is a 3-step process. Step number 1, you upload the book. Step number 2, you write some instructions. That can be tough. In this case, we write instructions to have the book serve as an innovation coach asking intelligent smart questions. We had AI help us write the instructions. And then you have a few conversation starters. This process, 5 to 10 minutes for a basic program you can run. Second usage of a book is to serve as a context engine. It's to give AI the extra understanding of your domain, or you the extra understanding of a specific domain, and logic you can instantly access. You don't have to re-explain it. You load once, you apply it many times. Some different ways that you might do this. You might take a book and upload it to your existing projects, or a gem, or to your knowledge base. If you're an innovation manager, take our 2 books, upload them, and when people are asking questions, they can ask questions to the book. You can create an innovation library, which I'll go through in just a second, or you can create a custom agent. The result here is better and more relevant decisions. What we did here is we used a product called Notebook LM, which is my new favorite AI tool. We took the 2 books, uploaded it. I also had an open access innovation certification study program, which had 78 articles and 58 videos. We uploaded everything to Notebook LM. So now we have an AI which has all of this information. Might be a little bit information overload, but it's definitely an interesting set of information. And now with that information, you can go ask it questions. The types of things you can ask, you can say, look, I want to make a podcast, I want to make a video. What we've chosen to do, because it's simple and easy to show, is to make an infographic. Your prompt might read something like this. I have a new product we're not sure about. Give me the 5 most important things to test before we launch. What will come out of that is something simple, straightforward, easy to understand, something you could share in your meeting. This is your little infographic. A third use of the book is a decision support. Books are designed a lot of times with frameworks and methodologies. Frameworks and methodologies give us thinking tools, a way to box together our ideas in a powerful way. They reduce choice overload, and they get us from the blank page paralysis. 2 ideas we have. One is about problem classification, i.e. you come up with an idea, you use the AI to classify it into a framework, or something I like a lot is we're using it, our book plus AI, to get teams aligned. You leverage a framework, get less wasted effort. Let me give you an example of how you might do this. So we have a GPT and a gem created on a portion of our book called True North. True North is about creating a simple set of guidelines that anybody in the company can understand to identify what are the most important things in the organization. The way it works, you open up the GPT, you run a prompt which is something like, I'd like your help to write a true north for this challenge. You explain the challenge. Ask me questions to build this step by step. If you answer approximately 6 to 10 questions, you'll get back a full true north, something that everybody can understand and repeat back. The fourth use is about execution acceleration. It's to turn insight into structured action plans. This is not about summarizing things, but it's about turning inputs into plans and programs that help you move forward. And I'm going to take you through three specific examples. Your outcome here: project start, decisions move, and behavior changes. The first one, which is based on my book, The Generative Organization. We've uploaded the book, we've uploaded some instructions, you can upload some extra project files, and basically what you do is you start the GPT, answer a few questions, and it will tell you what you need to do step by step over the next 90 days to implement a generative rebuild of your organization, integrating generative AI within your existing systems. 90 days, half hour more or less. A second, which I use a lot, is you can use AI to create an interactive podcast for a specific challenge. How do you do it? Open your knowledge notebook, like the one that we had before with all the innovation stuff. Go to audio overview and create a custom audio program. And you run a prompt like this: I have a team meeting tomorrow to discuss testing consumer willingness to pay. Create a talk so I'll understand the most important things. About 5 minutes later, you'll get a 10-minute podcast, questions and answers, something you can listen to in the car on the way to work the next day. Fantastic stuff. The last thing we have was created a GPT router, which is basically you answer 3 questions and it'll point you in the direction of the best tool that we have available in our own specific book, or a framework that will help you move forward. My question for you is, what can you do? With the power of good books, there are hundreds and hundreds of options. At the end of this, let's talk about what you've done, what you've tried, and what hasn't worked. Now, what is our target? Why have we done this? Our old model, 15,000 books, 150 applications. What we've done is we've taken away 2 barriers. We removed a paywall, which we believe will lead us to get more people using our books. Actually, what's interesting is since we made our books free in a PDF format, the sales of our print books and the sales of our ebooks have both skyrocketed. So in fact, not only are we getting more free books out there, but we're getting more paid books. Second, we want to remove the application wall by making it easy to apply the ideas. Our goal is to 100x the impact. If we take these numbers, we're looking at 176x impact. So what's happened so far? Well, in 8 days, we've had 1,683 downloads. That's a lot. It's less than we expected, but it's a point in the right direction. Usage, which we've been measuring through the use of the AI tools, is around 14%. That's fantastic. And what I like best is the reactions we got back. People saying, wow, I would have never thought of that. So we've got a free, legal, AI-ready experiment. You can get the books free. You can get the AI tools free. Just go to www.books.genorg.ai. You can scan the QR code here. I'd like to close this out with an important discussion about the future, which is more important than the books. It's about designing learning to survive in the world of real work. What we need to do is realize that understanding and knowledge is not the goal. Ideas only matter when they help us change our decisions, when they help us take action. And what we need to do is design learning to survive in the world of real work. We need to make ideas easy to access, easy to use, easy to apply, easy to understand. How can you go about it? You can get started with our book and other books. We have 5 specific guides in our AI guide that you can use for any book. You can extend this to use with other training materials and learning materials from trainings, events, internal guidelines. And basically, what you want to do is you want to take action tools that take the messy job of our business and make it easier to take action. Now, you might think this is a completely new idea. And I found out last week there's been a book that's been a required reading at Google since 2006. It's a science fiction book called Rainbow's Edge. And the book is about the future of intelligence, the future of competitive advantage. And it's saying that effectively intelligence is no longer the thing that makes us better. The advantage goes to those who can access and use information. That's what Google does. That's why it's been required to be. And that's what we're trying to do here with our book tools. What's the opportunity ahead? First and foremost, it's about taking information and making it useful, to put it into your organization, to make it fit with your systems and procedures, to become a generative organization where generative AI and your people working together create new and better ideas faster and easier. It's about transforming learning, a shift from passive learning and recall to active application. It's about building new habits where in fact we're using not AI based on loose assumptions, but grounded in real data and grounded in real expertise and new and better working habits. I've got a new 10-day habit building program which will launch in February. We're also running AI workshops to take any idea that you want forward faster and better. You can learn more about this by going to my website, www.bryancassady.com. We'll take the questions and answers at the end. If you want more information about how to go from AI hype to impact, I do talks, I do trainings, and I do workshops. Scan this QR code to get a copy of the presentation. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to splice in the questions and answers from our talk today. So that was it. That was the presentation. And what I'd love to do is open up the floor to people who have thoughts, ideas, comments, questions, and things like that. Anyone want to be the first one?
I can be.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Isabelita here. I'm living in Dubai, but I'm originally from Brazil, just in case. Okay,
Ah,
so yeah, my name can be a bit Spanish, but I'm Brazilian. Brian, my question to you is, so you have created this app, and if yes, then when you were talking about the example of Chris Voss, which happens to be somebody I follow a lot, and I love that book actually. And you're right, we tend to forget a lot. Do you mean like it has to be specific by author that we want to remember, or you think that perhaps lots of authors, lots of books that talk about that type of topic, that we can have an overview from different authors about the same topic?
so I personally believe that one author can be very useful, but many authors can be much more useful. Because what you're doing is when you take several together, you start connecting the dots. And when you start connecting the dots, you develop more knowledge, more insight into what you're doing. And what I would look at, um, using Notebook LM is a fantastic way to get started, because you can actually go ask a question and you say, look, I'm working on this thing. Can you help me with that? Okay. Dr. Shabam, you're next up with your hands up. Hey,
Bryan had actually added my question to the chat. Do you think now book-based courses will be gone? Because this seems much more, I mean, this is much more actionable, relevant.
I think change comes slow. I think it comes really slow. Um, I've been talking to a number of professors about this, and they like the idea, but it requires a big rethink in what you're doing. And it also puts a whole level of vulnerability up there. Because when you start giving the students access to a lot of information, they can start proving that you're wrong. And Michael, you're up.
Hey, Ryan. Great. I love the pitch. I love the way you segued. The beautiful work. I mean, great pace, great structure. I think it's really interesting. I mean, this is disruptive in the sense that you're asking a fundamental question about what the purpose of a book is. I've got lots of books. I've read some of them. I love them. I don't read them to the end. And this is always a question. Okay. Where do I find what I need to learn or know or understand in order to be able to fulfill something particular? My first question is, what is it that I'm actually grappling with? So that's the first point. The second point is, what is relevant and useful and appropriate and insightful that I might apply to this particular problem, if you want to call it that, that I have to solve. So let's say that contextualization of what it is that I'm actually trying to do is difficult in the first place. So that's a piece that needs to be done. The second piece is, what are the sources of wisdom and understanding, etc.? What is the spectrum of, let's say, opinion about how to approach this, and what might be the very best way to engage with this, and therefore the triage of the sources of information or the nuggets of information that might be absolutely precision relevant for this particular job. So yeah, you can ask Gemini to do deep research for you. You can use a notebook LLM. You can stuff it full and all of those kind of things, because it's not dynamic. But I think, let's say, the agent layer that we're effectively talking about here, which we will need to automate at some point out of this manual kind of process, is really the thing. So, your agent will say, "Hi, Michael, what is it you're trying to do today?" Well, here's the problem I'm trying to solve. I don't know how to do it. Here are some suggestions. This is the way that you've done it before. Did that work for you? How could you approach this in a different way? What are the sources you might consider? And therefore, what is the solution framework, if we can call it that I suggest we work within? Then you have the intelligence to be able to interrogate that as to the approach, as to the sources, as to the recommendations. And I think, working with and I do it all day. I mean, I'm building a platform, I'm using Claude and I'm using Replit, and those people talk to each other via me all day. Okay. So I think that is really what we're actually doing. Now, it does pose a question, and every status quo is difficult to move. So the question is, which business school, imparting what kind of knowledge to who, for what purpose, is going to be the first mover in implementing different ways to learning? So action-based learning. And I love the thing is, we are trying to design thinking, or a way of thinking, or an ability to think, okay, that keeps pace with or outpaces the evolution of the technology. That's in essence what I think you're approaching it. Absolutely outstanding. Love it. Thanks very much.
So let me make two comments on what you had there. So about 12 years ago, somebody asked me if I wanted to teach. I've been an entrepreneur working in a lot of places. And I said, who actually wants to teach? And I said, oh, come on, Bryan, give it a shot. You'll enjoy it. And it actually turned out I really enjoyed it. And one of the things that was new at that point in time was all these things about Google being really effective, and students are not going to need to remember anything anymore. And we actually have to redesign our whole course because Google answers all the questions. That was just the tip of something amazing. And I think we have to really think about how we do it different, but train people to ask better questions. And the second thing I wanted to do is talk to you about, and I'm not going to remember the guy's name. I read his book. There's a book called How to Read Any Book, and I don't remember who the author is. I know he's written like 70 different books. And he said, what you need to do is, before you read a book, is you have to decide what the book is about. You have to ask the questions. You have to do some effort. So now, can you imagine? You could put your book in and say, tell me what I should learn from this book. And your learning process becomes very different. Steve, you're up next.
Thank you, Bryan. What a lovely presentation. And I really like the way that you've pulled it all together. My question's more about this idea of access to wisdom. We've got the books, but we also have on the internet, we've got newsletters, we've got, blog places. One of the ideas that comes to mind is places like Substack and some of these others. What are your thoughts on incorporating just the overwhelming amount of data and wisdom that's available, and then sifting it for well, here's the divergence of my question. We're going to have this intent of AI to try to appease what we're looking for, and I think that's going to create siloing. And so we're going to have all of this wisdom and information that's going to be sent to us in a filtered mechanism. My question is how can we remove this bias that we're kind of creating ourselves and truly access wisdom so that we grow from that and access things like Substack and other things that are blog based along with the books?
I think you got $1 million question, and if I had the answer, I would give it to you, but I don't have the answer. What I do think is we just have, there it is, how to read a book. I knew that that was there someplace. I think the opportunity that exists, which is really large, is to start taking lots of information and put it together. So, for example, one of the things that I've done is I have two authors that I follow quite closely. I took their whole Substack and I uploaded it to Notebook LM. And based on that, I created a knowledge base of how they would react and give me feedback. And you start getting wisdom, which is really cool. And then I did something which was even weirder. I did it for myself. So I forget stuff that I said 6 months ago. And when you get older, you forget a lot of things. And I actually uploaded stuff that I wrote before, and then I used that to answer questions, and it's absolutely amazing. I said, shoot, I didn't even know I knew that. So I think there's some really cool stuff there. Dan, we're going to make you the last question maker.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you very much. I think you're not just onto something. I love the way that you approach it by doing it with research and trying to figure out what the real answers are. And what that leads me to is a question about if you were to take exactly what you're doing, which is to offer your books and some tools along with it, some approaches, but were to instrument it, and then people could opt in and out, obviously. But if they opted in, you would start learning what they're actually doing, what they're producing, the steps they're taking to do it, because all of that can be instrumented digitally. And then you'd be able to say, okay, now how do I build the tools that get people from A to Z in one step so that they could literally go in with one click and start doing the kinds of things that people see as most valuable. And you could even segment it because some of your books are about innovation. What do the innovators actually do? What are the people who are in business development and doing business planning? What do they do? So you've got different, how do the marketers approach it? So you've got different ways of looking at what your tools are and how knowledge is turned into action and how to connect knowledge and people and what they're actually doing. The result, actually, for me, is that one of the things that attracted me is that I have not written a book because I see it as an obsolete format. And it doesn't mean that I don't have knowledge that I want to share. It means I'm trying to figure out exactly how to do that in a way that's more productive and effective and produces the kind of impact and the kinds of tools that you're doing. If you were able to turn them into sort of one-click tools, that would be the way that I would want to write a book.
Yeah.
So it leads to other people then being able to create and produce knowledge as well, so that everybody could deliver it in formats that really fit what people do.
Uh, no, I think there's 2 points of wisdom which are there. Is first of all, tracking what people do with your materials would be very good. I did this experiment. I decided I was going to do this the first week of January, and we're now at the end of January. It's done. So the tools we made were pretty straight and off the shelf. Boom, ready to go. But I
Yeah,
think
good start. Yeah.
tracking would be fantastic. The second thing is your comment that books are obsolete. I don't think so. But I
Well,
think
from a writer's point of view, creating that particular format of the product is what I feel is less efficient for me than trying to figure out what you're doing, which is how to make it digitally available so that more people will use it and it'll be more accessible and productive.
no, and I think writing a book that stands on a shelf and actually I even know people who refuse to make digital versions of their book. I think that's gone. That's done. And I think what you need to do is you need to come back to saying, look, why did you write the book in the first place? And I don't know. Well, Dan Brown, he writes a book to make money, but I don't write a book to make money. I write a
I do
book
it to be useful. Yeah.
to contribute someplace. So if the contribution is people use it, fantastic. Okay, so we're going to end this up. I'm going to ask people to do one thing. If you could put in the chat something that you might do with what you heard today. So it could be, I might actually upload a book to an AI and try to ask it some questions. I might do this or I might do that. If you put it there, it helped me to figure out if this is useful, if it's good talk, and download the books, see what you come up with. If you like it, tell me. If you don't like it, tell me. Make my day. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. So take a second, if you can, write something. Say, look, I'm going to do this. Try Notebook LM, definitely. A Triz GPT, actually, I've got one if you want, Carol. Just contact me. Simone, I'm going to upload books to at least summarize them. That's a good step. But actually, instead of just asking it to summarize, give it insights. Go one step further. And thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Cheers. I wish you a very good day, and you'll get a link to download the presentation and the video afterwards. So if you want to share it with somebody, share it. For my Brazilian friends, really nice to meet you here. Isabelita, I saw you during the presentation. I'm actually off to São Paulo next Tuesday.
Oh, wow. Say hello to my people there.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Bryan. Thank you.
Thanks for joining for this talk. If you want to go from AI hype to impact, I do keynotes, trainings, and workshops. Scan the QR code here to get a free copy of the presentation.